Today we're at the Camp Ernst Lake in Burlington, Kentucky. This beautiful 25-acre lake is one of the more popular lakes for individuals who live in northern Kentucky. But before I go into great detail about this particular lake, we need to start with the history and go back to another lake that's located in northern Kentucky. Let's stop by there and then we'll come back out here to Camp Ernst. Welcome to another episode of FishingLocalWaters.com. Remember, if you're fishing, you're almost always fishing in someone's local waters. So when on private land, talk to the owners and ask permission. And always be courteous and good stewards whenever you're on private or public properties. We hope you enjoyed this segment of FishingLocalWaters.com. Well, you may be wondering why we're starting a FishingLocalWaters.com segment in the middle of a cemetery. However, note the name on the gravestone behind me. This is the family plot of Richard P. Ernst, who happened to be a lawyer out of Covington, Kentucky, and out of Cincinnati, Ohio. He was born in 1858 and died in 1934. In the 20s, he made a successful bid and became a U.S. Senator representing Kentucky. And before he passed, he donated a tremendous amount of money to a program that he believed immensely in, which was the YMCA program. That money was used to build the Madison branch of the YMCA and also to purchase the land and start Camp Ernst, which is located in Burlington, Kentucky. Years later, I believe in about 1950, they added the lake and they named the lake Camp Ernst Lake in honor of Richard P. Ernst. So there you go. That's why we're starting the program in the middle of the cemetery. And let me add that I don't know whether or not that lake family plot is overlooking was there when Richard was buried. And I don't know whether or not that this plot was selected with purpose or design because the lake was there, but I do know that it is most appropriate that Richard is overlooking a very beautiful lake here in the Highland Cemetery. As Dixie and I leave the cemetery and head back over to Camp Ernst Lake, I'll take this opportunity to tell you a little bit more about the lake. Every time I go out to Camp Ernst Lake, I get a sense of harmony. And this seems fitting when I learned that the lake is operated and maintained by several different organizations. The northern shore is still used by the YMCA Camp Ernst. I'm told when the lake was first built in the 50s, campers were taught how to water ski. Can you just picture kids being bounced over the lake behind old woody speedboats? A section of the southeast shore is still private property, and most of the south shore is maintained by the Boone County Parks and Recreation. And they mow the banks in a manner that allows several designated areas for those who's wanting to fish from the bank. There is a small pier located adjacent to the dam if you want to fish off the pier. If you prefer fishing from a boat, kayak, or canoe, a boat ramp is located in the middle of the south shore. I will mention, and this is always important, there's 2 porta potties that's located within the park, and they are always well maintained. If you do want to wade in, I suggest entering where the private property fence meets the lake. You will see the fence when you first enter into the property. From there, hug the shoreline and fish back against the private property. In this area, you'll find that the lake bed is pretty flat and firm. I've never had a problem with sinking in or getting stuck in this area. The water level is shallow at the shoreline, and it deepens slowly to about your waist level at about 30 feet from the shoreline. There is a couple of trees down in that area, so be careful. I suggest taking a walking stick as anytime you enter the water. A couple of weeks ago, I was fishing this area, and I found it full of plant life. And I was surprised by the abundance and the sudden appearance. I hadn't seen that much plant life out there, and I feared that hydrilla had invaded the lake. I took photos and to a biologist and a botanist who was a member of the Northern Kentucky Fly Fishers, and he determined that it was curly pondweed. Now this too is an invasive species, but it's already found its way into all but 2 of the lower 48 states, so I reckon it's here to stay. I don't know if Boone County treated for the curly pondweed, but it is showing signs of diminishing. Located throughout the park is stations to dispose of old fishing lines. These are maintained by several volunteer organizations, including the Northern Kentucky Fly Fishers. Well, Dixie, I've done a whole lot of talking, and I completely forgot to tell everybody the most important thing, and that is that the Camp Ernst Lake is a fence lake. Why don't we let the good folks of the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife tell everybody about their fence program.
I'm Dane Balsman, Fisheries Program Coordinator with the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. Providing fishing opportunities for residents across the state is part of the overall mission for the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources. Stocking neighborhood lakes with catfish, trout, and sunfish several times throughout the year helps achieve this goal. The department started its neighborhood fish stocking program more than a dozen years ago to provide anglers with quality fishing opportunities near cities of all sizes throughout the state. A fishing in neighborhoods lake that we commonly refer to as a Fins Lake provides excellent fishing for trout, catfish, largemouth bass, and sunfish. To check the stocking schedule for a Fins Lake near you, visit the department's website and click on the Fish button at the top. In the drop-down menu, select Fishing in Neighborhoods. On this page, you'll see links for information on stockings of catfish, trout, and others. There is also an interactive map so you can find a Fins Lake near you. You'll find that in the same location on the website. Fish stocked in the Fins Lakes bite readily, so get your fishing pole and your fishing license and get ready for a good time at a lake near you.
So you see, there's a large number of organizations and agencies that are working together to maintain this lake. And it's working very well. The park is full of wildlife, and it facilitates a steady stream of anglers, and which includes kids and teenagers, which is always good to see. And it never seems to feel like it's overcrowded or overused. So my sincere thanks to every volunteer, every agency, and every private and public organization that works to keep this wonderful resource available to the public. And a very special thanks to Richard P. Ernst, whose vision is still alive today after almost 100 years.